The history of paleontology as a science has been an interesting one. Ever since the first mysterious remains of ancient creatures were unearthed, different groups of people have been interpreting what these hints at past life might represent. Eventually, as more and more fossils have been uncovered and our understanding of life on Earth and evolutionary processes have developed, a better and more complete recognition of what fossils are and what they mean has been established. But back in the earlier days of European paleontology, when geology itself was still a young science, the discoveries of one woman in a small town on the southern coast of England sent ripples throughout the scientific world. I am of course talking about Mary Anning, a truly remarkable person and one of the most influential paleontologists of all time, even if she wasn't properly recognised as such during her lifetime. Mary's discoveries in the early Jurassic-aged rocks near Lyme Regis included some of the first ichthyosaurs, plesiosaurs and pterosaurs, as well as lesser known discoveries including bizarre shark relatives, the ink from ancient squid-like creatures, and even recognising the first coprolites, fossilised feces. Well, recently the BoneHeads crew and I visited the town of Lyme Regis, where Mary spent her entire life, and went fossil hunting on the very same beaches she searched some 200 years before us, as well as discussing her life and impact on the science we study. Here's what happened. Hello and welcome back to BoneHeads. We've got a very special episode for you this week, as we're still in Dorset, been fossil hunting in Lyme Regis and kind of exploring its paleontological heritage. Of course, Mary Anning lived here her whole life, probably one of the most famous paleontologists in history. There's been so much written about her, and so we thought it would only be right to have an episode dedicated to how she changed science forever. We've been all around the place, kind of visiting important landmarks for her life. The Lyme Regis Museum is literally out our window, the site of her house from 1808 onwards. Hamza's here with me.
Hello.
As usual. And then we've got Eddie over there.
Oh.
And Amelia.
Do you want me to take?
Yeah. So,
I'm new.
Who are you?
I'm a special guest. So my name is Amelia and I'm on the course with you. I don't know how much more there is to say.
What are you studying?
I am... My specialty is very different to everyone else's. I'm kind of an archaeologist nowadays. So I like sort of anthropology, human evolution, Pleistocene, megafauna. I found a bison skull.
Yeah, cool.
That sort of
It's so cool.
stuff. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
What are you doing for your dissertation?
Well, oh yeah. So my dissertation is an experimental study on cut marks on bones. So there'd be bones, and then humans would cut the bones when they butcher the animals. But there are lots of different reasons that these bones could be cut. Like they could have tumbled down a cliff and caught on a jagged edge, or an animal could have torn it with their teeth. So I'm trying to determine a way of differentiating cut marks from human butchery and natural abrasion marks from being rolled around in a fluvial system. So I get modern bones, and then I get to cut them and then boil them in chlorine. It's a little bit psychotic, but it's quite fun.
Yeah, much more experimental than what we're doing
Yes.
with ours. And definitely a lot of applications for the field. Great. Yeah. I want to start talking about Mary Anning, I guess. We visited Rackfield, or the place where Rackfield probably was, which is now the Anning Road playing field. So you may have heard of Mary Anning also being referred to as Lightning Mary. There's a book titled that. And the reason for that is that quite early on in her life, I believe she was about 15 months old, she was actually struck by lightning and survived. And so it was in a place called Rackfield. There was a travelling equestrian circus visiting, and she was taken to go and see this. The location of Rackfield itself isn't known for certain, but it's probably where we are now, this open playing field, so you can see. Today,
This is also called Anning Road.
yeah, Anning Road playing fields. The naming of Anning Road after Mary Anning is just a happy coincidence. But yeah, so there's this travelling equestrian circus doing performing in the field. Mary Anning was under the care of someone called Elizabeth Haskins. I think she was her nurse or a neighbour looking after her. Suddenly the sky went really grey. There was a huge rainstorm moved in, and they took shelter under this huge elm tree in the field. So Elizabeth Haskins took Mary under there. There were quite a few other people taking shelter as well, and then lightning actually struck the tree, killed Elizabeth Haskins holding baby Mary, as well as 2 other 15-year-old girls. And miraculously, Mary survived. She was taken from the arms of... Hamza was just off in the background doing his own thing. Yeah, she was taken from the arms of the nurse and put in hot water, and that seemed to revive her. So yeah, I mean, that is just an incredible story.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of her life is fairly well documented. It's just really crazy. Every aspect of it is already an incredible story of its own.
Like an amazing legend.
It all together.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, Belemnites were referred to as
oh, that's true. Yeah.
Also as well, weren't they? So I think that's kind of apt, considering she probably found loads of Belemnites as well.
Definitely, and wrote with their ink. So,
yeah.
What did they think Belemnites were for? They thought they were lightning rods, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we said. Yeah. So they thought.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
They thought the Belemnites, the squid relative, the guards, like the hard parts of them, were like petrified lightning bolts, allegedly.
I mean, when we were in the museum, we were saying after the lightning strike, her parents were saying, "Oh, she was so much more active and energetic."
Yeah. So the historian George Roberts, who is a big champion of Mary and wrote histories of Lyme, he kind of embellished the story that she was a dull child who was then made more lively by the lightning strike.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I first heard the story, I thought there's no way that could actually have happened and that was real. That must just be added to a story. But no, there's so much documentation of it. They know the names of everyone who died, and the husband of the nurse who actually died literally wrote about this and said how it was supposedly the death of the nurse was the life of the child. So yeah, an incredible event, incredible part of the Mary Anning story, and here we are where it supposedly happened, and it's now a pretty awesome playground.
But the lightning strike is of course only the beginning of the Mary Anning legend. The fossil animals she discovered coming out of the cliffs near Lyme were what put her on the paleontological map, and many of her amazing discoveries came from Church Cliffs to the east of the town.
So yeah, we're here at Church Cliffs, and this is the site of many of Mary Anning's most famous discoveries. So I believe a lot of her plesiosaurs actually came from here, and definitely the Dimorphodon that she found when it was first named Pterodactylus macronix. And yeah, so it's interbedded limestones and organic rich shales, and the sea defences we're standing on right now wouldn't have been here back in Mary's time, so all of this cliff area would have been exposed and there'd been a lot more erosion and things coming out. But yeah, these are still pretty impressive cliffs, and obviously you want to be careful going near them because they are quite dangerous, so we'll be staying away from the cliff base. But yeah, this is the site of a lot of important scientific discoveries.
Lyme Regis also has a brilliant museum right on the seafront, actually built on the site of the Annings' house and their first fossil shop, so we just had to go and visit that.
We've just come to Lyme Regis Museum, and it kind of documents the whole sort of history of the town, with a focus on Mary Anning as well, so there's fossils upstairs. But yeah, it's just a really, really good museum. So we're in the first part here.
Yeah, this was the Civil War, and this is all war and Roman gallery.
Yeah.
So, but we'll get closer and closer to time.
Yeah.
We like.
We'll show you what's in here.
I mean, we're past the time I like.
I'm looking out for the table. I know it's in here somewhere.
What?
It's William Buckland's table made out of. Oh my goodness! Look at this.
Look at this. There's an ichthyosaur.
Oh wow, that's a
Massive.
scapula.
Oh, scapula of a whale.
Oh, that's sick. Whoa.
Massive. It's so cool.
That's incredible.
Wow. Oh
gosh. What's that?
Is that a composite ichthyosaur skull? Can't pull any more.
I mean, it doesn't.
Because that's the back of a skull. It's an ichthyosaur skull.
Yeah,
someone's made it.
Sclerotic ring.
Wow.
Here's the humerus of what looks like a bird, because of the hole there, pneumatocyst in the middle.
Got a lot of nice bones in here.
Oh, look at this. These are our
Going back there.
Of course.
Oh, push the green button.
I can see myself.
Oh, media. Whale bones.
Wow, so there's a whale scapula just behind us, and then there's a whale rib and vertebra. Wow. What is it?
It's like a showing strata, different levels.
Oh, wow.
Like grass.
So you can pull the grass away.
Paleoart. Cool.
Cenozoic chalk and Mesozoic chalk.
The perfect beds.
Perfect.
Upper and middle Jurassic, so yeah, ichthyosaurs and ginkgos.
Hey, you got me here.
Lower, no, yeah, the early Jurassic.
With some nice crinoids that I found earlier.
And then the Triassic. Oh, nice. Is that a clock?
Hamza, you're the expert.
It's Triassic.
Yeah, it looks like some sort of pseudotsuchian. There's a pelvic right there. There's a dipidium, looks like some sort of dipidium. That's a croc skull.
What do you mean by what's a
So
dipidium?
dipidium is a fish.
Right, I was going to say, I thought you were calling it a bone of some sort. I was like, Hamza, that is a fish right there. A bonnet! I filmed the important. Oh, look at this! There's a diorama.
Oh, it's, Duriantecra. Well, based on that, I'm assuming. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Bye bye, Pangea.
Oh no! Rip. My favourite supercontinent, Gondwana land.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
So cool.
That's just how it seems.
Wait, through the holes?
Oh, bruh. The commitment.
Yeah.
This staircase is a piece of art in itself. Look at that.
What's this? A slab.
Now we're allowed upstairs. So this is fairly important, right?
Massive pterosaurs. So yeah, this is a cast of the original Anning specimen. The actual one's in Natural History Museum in London. Yeah. Actually, weirdly was lost for a while. It was only in 1969, I think, relocated in the collections of the Natural History Museum, and they didn't realise that it was the original specimen collected by Joseph and Mary Anning.
How can they lose? Well, I suppose it's
know.
quite big,
Yeah,
isn't it?
It was like auctioned off from the original place. Auctioned off from the original place it was put on display. And then lost for a while, but there should be like more of the body, which is still missing. So we've got a bit of the ribs, there was like the vertebral column and the skull, luckily. But yeah, the rest of it is possibly still lost in the Natural History Museum
Hopefully
collection.
somewhere in the Natural History
Someone
Museum.
finds it one day.
Oh wow, look at this.
They're trying to
That's so nice.
make their humans. Ben, don't lift on.
Is it not?
It's unknown.
Well, I mean, honey, there's a few on the ceiling. Look.
Oh yeah, I told you.
Ichthyosaur, the squid, Dimorphodon. There's so much to film.
So here we've got another of Mary's. Well, this one isn't found by Mary Anning, but Mary Anning found the first pterosaurs, well, recognised as pterosaurs in the UK. They've been found in other places in Europe previously as like really nice specimens. So this one wasn't. It says collection history is unknown, so it wasn't the one found by Mary Anning herself. And we know it's not that one because this has skull material. Mary's didn't have skull. But this is probably one found. There are a couple more found from Lyme in the later 19th century, so this is probably one of them. But yeah, Dimorphodon. Are there reconstructions of it here? Yeah, right above you. There we go. Yeah, the famous flying pterosaurs, originally named Pterodactylus macronix. That's Dimorphodon macronix. And yeah, Mary Anning was responsible for finding the first ones in the UK, that were recognised as such. So. That's pretty awesome to have that there. There you go.
That is pretty awesome.
Okay. And another thing we've been very excited about, William Buckland, the legend. His his table made out of fish coprolites collected from near Edinburgh. That's amazing. I can't believe they actually have this preserved. So these are like cross sections.
Fish poo.
Yeah, literally cross sections of fish poo that he had built into a table as kind of like a
Bit
conversation
hard to
piece.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of yeah. It's a fairly impressive conversation piece. Yeah.
William Buckland was quite a character. That is.
That could be said. You getting excited over the crocodiles, Hamza?
It's interesting. It's still got its so right in block 1, right in the middle, there's a small skew. Now this is interesting because the pterosaurs. So this looks like this is a Thalatsuchian. So the Thalatsuchians are the most famous for their marine crocs. You've got the Metriorhynchidae, and then you have the pterosaurs, and the pterosaurs are the ones that they lost their osteoderms because they decided to stay more marine, whereas the Metriorhynchids actually needed armor. I might be getting them mixed up. Apologies if I got them the wrong way around, but this is interesting because this specimen actually has osteoderms. It only has a single one, so the osteoderms could have fallen off during death. But it's just interesting one is only one. So this could have been one of the ones that lost its osteoderms for reducing weight and swimming better. It's really nice though, it's lovely. I'm trying to get a nice photo of it. It's Trey.
Oh, Mary Anning's dog.
Hello.
Have you ever seen how the long spines are big?
Could I be the future of fossil? Oh.
This one?
Yes, this is the one.
I am indeed the future of fossil hunting. Crinoids, like the one I found earlier. Oh no,
So,
stop milking.
number 7 has been marked as Pterodactylus. So it's another pterosaur, but it's actually Dimorphodon. They've known this now from all the research done on Dimorphodon, but this is really important because the skull. So the skull was never actually, as Ben mentioned earlier, the skull was never actually found with Mary Anning specimens. But over time we found more specimens of Dimorphodon. Here is the next important fossil of Dimorphodon. But in Dimorphodon you can see these amazing conical, sharp teeth, and it just shows that Dimorphodon was feeding on fish and insects. So it's just an amazing specialised animal. It's got a massive. If you look on the specimen itself. The weird U-shaped curve is its supratemporal fenestra. No, it's its nasal opening. But it's absolutely massive.
Bless me, sorry.
Over time, the pterosaurs will make this smaller, and the openings in the skull will open up, and you get the massive openings that we see in the tapigeras and the neostachids.
Convergent evolution. Dolphins and ichthyosaurs.
More coprolites from Buckland.
He really had a thing for his coprolites, didn't he?
Oh yeah.
Almond. Whoa, what's in there?
Coprolites.
So, where do you get up to?
Probably about the Miocene.
Let's test it out.
Stand against it.
Come on, buddy.
I go to the Miocene, I told you.
Look through the hole.
Mid-Miocene.
They can't see, cut that out.
It's okay, you weren't in frame, you weren't in frame.
Oh, I'm in the Holocene. Hell yeah.
Oh my god.
Can I stay down here?
Wait, where do I get to? Where do I get to? I'll give
Probably a
this to you.
Oligocene.
No, I make it to the Miocene. Look at that.
Wait, can I get to the Palaeoartine? Can I see?
Yeah, where are you gonna get to?
Megalodon. Stand up straight.
Yeah,
Oh, you're
you're
the
a
Pliocene?
Pliocene.
Yeah. Oh, it might be the hair.
Oh.
Think
Yeah,
even
cool.
with the okay. I wanted to make it to Pleistocene. It's a hard
Your
life.
favourite part.
My favourite part. The most important part.
Historical reenactment of the lightning strike on Mary as a baby.
She got struck by lightning.
Yeah. We can go and see the field where it happened.
Oh, yes, please. Clearly, she was struck by the gods.
Yeah.
Gave her all the skills.
Like ridges on it.
So the museum is actually built on the site of Mary Anning's home and first fossil shop. This is what it would look like.
Yeah, so behind me here you can see the famous Duria Antiquior painting done by Henry de la Becque in 1830. Duria Antiquior meaning a more ancient Dorset. And it's almost entirely based on the findings of Mary Anning. You can see there's kind of an updated, more modern version done there by Richard Bisley, adding in, I think that must be Squid-like in the background, looks like, which is really cool. But yeah, you can actually recognise the 3 different types of ichthyosaurs they knew about back then. So there's Temnodontosaurus, there's the ones that eventually became known as Leptonectes, the long-snouted ones, and Ichthyosaurus communis, I'm assuming. They were all called Ichthyosaurus back then. De la Becque did this version, and then later on in life, actually to raise money for the Annings when they were struggling financially, he made like smaller sort of almost postcard versions of them, and then actually sold them to members of the Geological Society who bought them, and then all the money went to Mary Anning and her family. So very nice of them. Okay, something very exciting in this drawer here. Mary's ichthyosaur. So there's this really nice specimen of Ichthyosaurus anningae, actually named by a friend of mine, Dr. Dean Lomax, and his colleague Judy Masseri back in 2015. So it says this one was actually found in 2019 and then purchased from the museum in 2021. And so, yeah, luckily there's a humerus and a scapula here, so that's, oh, and some skull bones actually, I just noticed. These are like quite indicative of, or like able to be used to in ichthyosaur taxonomy, so you can work out what this is. And this specimen is actually the oldest known specimen of Ichthyosaurus anningae, it says, extending the range by about 5 million years. And that's because of the ammonites that are on the same slab as it, so they could use the ammonite biozones and work out where this came from. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of sad that it took until 2015 for an ichthyosaur to actually be named after Mary Anning, but glad it happened, and I'm glad it was Dean Lomax who did it. It was very nice of him. So yeah, that's really awesome to see this specimen.
Yeah, those ribs are pretty close together, but obviously what we've seen about other specimens is compression.
Yeah, that's interesting actually. You can see the ribs change direction.
Yeah, although it looks like it must be some sort of deformation, because obviously that vertebra is upturned.
Yeah,
definitely not in the right place.
And you can sort of see here, so I think in this specimen.
Oh, yeah, that's I understand how it's being compressed. So it's compressed on top there,
yeah,
and then that side, like they're still going the same direction.
Oh yeah, it's been like pushed in.
They're still going backwards, and they're still going the right way.
You can work out the taxonomy.
I did read a couple of papers from the 2000, I think early 2007ish.
Yeah.
Look at deformation in not as in like saying how bad they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, ichthyosaurs.
That's cool. And you can see back here the ischia and pubes of in some species they're actually like fused on both ends, so they're just like one singular unit. Here they still look a bit separated, but that one sort of looks like it's starting to fuse at one end. Yeah, in some ichthyosaurs they don't even have like a gap between them, it's just one unit. That's really cool.
Oh, those back flippers are tiny.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so that's the part of the pelvians where they get small.
Because like, look at how large the vertebrae are up to some point when they're just really reduced.
Yeah, so you can see again where the tail bend is. So this lower rod supporting the lower bit of the caudal fin, and then obviously,
it looks like
you can tell from the soft tissue remains the fleshy one on top.
Looks like I might have tried to have made a bit of a flipper.
Yeah. That's a really nice specimen. Can't really see the coracoids, they seem to be buried.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
No sclerotic ring, is there really?
No, it doesn't look like it. There might be pieces of it in there, but yeah. Looks like it's come out mostly.
Yeah, those teeth look bigger than the Anningae specimen.
Yeah, so breviceps, meaning like short face? Short snout or something?
Short head.
Yeah, something like that. Oh, there we go, yeah, short head. So yeah, the jaw's proportionally quite short for an ichthyosaur.
It's focused on your reflection.
Oh, has it?
It must be picking up his face.
Yeah. And then, oh, actually, yeah, that's kind of interesting. The lower jaw, like, not much of it actually has teeth. The teeth just stop there. And then the angler and serangula go all the way back.
Yeah. Got the nasal, maxilla.
Yeah.
Maxilla.
And so with ichthyosaurs, most ichthyosaurs, instead of like what you might be used to with a lot of dinosaurs, where the maxilla makes up most of the jaw, it's actually the premaxilla making up the long part, and then the maxilla is often very reduced.
You can't really see the supratemporal fascia, can you? There a bit.
No,
A little bit some of the vertebrae looks like.
Yeah.
Well, we've got the neural spines.
Yeah, I was going to say, nice that they've actually kept the neural spines. So ichthyosaurs are, I've probably talked about this before in an episode. But
I think it's important to highlight that they did have neural spines, just generally they're not found with the vertebrae, and that's how you recognise the vertebrae.
Yeah, so it's unusual for reptiles to have unfused, like the spine and the main part of the vertebra. That's unusual. Usually in most reptiles are fused together, but in ichthyosaurs they're unfused, and that's why you often find just the central.
So
why do you think that is?
I'm not sure if there's like a particular reason for it. It's just
maybe
what
increased
they did.
flexibility, or
I imagine it probably would help with a bit of flexibility, like
possibly even buoyancy. If they're
wise.
separating them out, then you could have like a fatty pad in between that's helping.
Yeah, maybe actually.
Buoyancy.
And then you can see the rib facets as well, and there's two of them. The ribs have like two articulating heads.
So that's why when you're looking for fossil ichthyosaur vertebrae, you look for the biconcave shape, and even though it would have
there would have been a spine attached to it in life, but they are very frequently lost, so you usually only find the circular ashtray-shaped centra themselves.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and yours, the specimen you've got isn't too much smaller than some of these ones.
No, it's probably it's probably more like one of these ones along here.
Yeah, I think when you get back there, you get like quite a distinctive kind of almost triangular, more pointed shape.
Right.
So I think you've probably got one from like towards the head, but again, it could just be quite a small individual.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Right. Just got to find a ammonite now, then I'm complete for the.
But yeah.
Personally, I'd like an entire plesiosaur.
Yeah, we just noticed there's also a display on Jane Austen things here, and quite funnily, it's possible that Jane Austen actually met Mary Anning herself, and they definitely met Richard Anning, her father, because there's a story of, I think it was an 1804 or 1805 like family trip to Lyme Regis, and there's a letter by Jane Austen to her sister where she describes going to get a piece of furniture fixed by Richard Anning in his cabinet making shop, and they apparently complained about him because he overestimated the cost of repairing this piece of furniture, so they were not too happy with Richard Anning. But maybe Mary was around at the same time, could have met, but she'd have been very young at that point, so just an interesting anecdote.
So how did Mary Anning start collecting fossils for a living? The decision to start making money this way would eventually lead to some of the most significant finds of the century, and it seems as though the start of her commercial collecting can be attributed to the greatest trauma of her life, the loss of her father, Richard Anning, when she was 11 years old.
I recently read by geologist Tom Sharp, The Fossil Woman. It's really, really good. We've seen it in all the shops in Lyme. There's a really nice hardback version of it. And it's just, like really good biography about her life. Like lots of passages from letters they have of her.
Quite funny because we had that recent paper as well.
Oh yeah, we need to talk about that as well. So that actually leads me into the next point. This man called George Roberts. He was born in 1804 in Lyme, and he was a historian and a schoolmaster in the town. And it's thanks to him that we actually have a lot of records of Mary's life, because he wrote about her quite a lot in history books. He wrote about Lyme Regis. He actually includes the story. It's thanks to him we know supposedly how she was kind of inspired to start collecting commercially. And supposedly it was very shortly after Richard's death. Some records say it was actually the day after the funeral. He was wandering the beach, apparently kind of like neglected by her mother Molly because she was so distraught. So she seems to have just like started wandering the beach by herself. And then she found an ammonite on the beach, walking back to the house. And a lady on the street...
I love this story so much.
A lady on the street offered her money for it, so she accepted. And apparently from that moment on, became determined to start collecting for money and realised they could pay off the debt. And so, it's interesting that she seems to attribute the start of her fossil hunting
career to this traumatic event in her life.
It would be amazing if someone near in the future found that ammonite that bought from Mary Anning. That would be amazing. The starting point of her life.
How would you track it?
I have no idea, but if they kept records, but
yeah, I would say that's very unlikely. But then there's the 2014. So I don't know if it's actually in the museum, and I think we may have missed it if it is there. But in 2014, there was a metal detectorist on the beach down by Church Cliffs where he'd been fossil hunting, and he actually found that coin that has Mary's name inscribed in it.
No, we did see it.
Well, there was an image of it.
Yeah. An image of it.
Yeah. So I think it's in the museum. I wish we could.
Could you imagine if it was a metal detector we saw, the guy we saw today?
It could have been.
Could you imagine?
Yeah.
I would have. Oh god.
But the fact that 2014, so like 200 years after
stuff is still coming out those cliffs.
And well, not even from the
cliffs.
Not the cliffs.
Yeah, no, it's definitely just
on the beach.
Yeah.
She just left.
So, as a commercial fossil collector, how has she been remembered through the years since her death?
Because people always are like, well, I think it's changed in recent years where people are more accepting of calling her a paleontologist. It always used to be like this fossil collector.
Oh, an amateur fossil collector.
There's no doubt she was a paleontologist.
Yeah, absolutely. She did so much work. She, like, the male geologists of the time, they were coming to her for the advice and for the knowledge that she had.
Yeah.
Like, she knew the rocks so well.
You don't necessarily need to be educated in paleontology to be a paleontologist. You just need to contribute to the field.
Yeah.
And
a lot of stuff we rely on is people going out every day and just picking stuff up.
I mean, some of the most sort of prolific collectors or people that have contributed most to the field are people that aren't actually educated in it. Like, not well, they're educated, but not like educate. They don't have a degree in geology.
So like,
you can teach yourself. Like, these people know so much more about their area of study than people who have been textbook taught.
We saw Mike Harrison's Terminodontosaurus. An amateur fossil collector on Lyme Regis on the Dorset coast, and look at the size and
that was incredible.
Look how amazing that skull was.
Let's face it, we're not
going anywhere near that.
Yeah.
I hate the word amateur. I hate that they call it amateur fossil.
I don't like that word, but I think it's a term that's actually been accepted now.
No, it is. It's just.
I just don't like using the word, but I'm just going what the book says saying. He's an amazing fossil collector.
Amateur. Like, once we get our degree, we'd be considered professional, and there's no way in hell I'm finding half the stuff they do.
That's why I like it so much as a science.
Professional in theory, not the practice.
Yeah.
It's great that absolutely anyone can contribute to the science of paleontology by finding stuff.
I swear half of the knowledge that we have and our practical knowledge does not come from the course. It comes from just reading in our spare time or just... You know what? I'm not even going to argue.
Trumps.
All of my knowledge is from prehistoric times. All of my knowledge, all of your knowledge, it's not stuff we really get taught. Like, we get taught the basics, the fundamentals, and it's all really good stuff you can fall back on. But the stuff that we really use, we find out on our own.
Yeah, definitely. I think
Free
so.
time.
A lot of it. Just reading papers and kind of like, because that's kind of, I think, what happens with a lot of, I agree, there's probably a better word than amateur.
It does sound condescending in a way. But like when they start collecting stuff and then taking an interest in that and start reading about the subject and reading papers, that's like, those are the people who are going to make the contribution.
You could even, whether people like them or not, you could even say the Larsons with their Black Hill Institute. That's they've done some fantastic work with some of their specimens. And also, like, a lot of these people, what I've noticed is, like, when we're fossil hunting, sometimes we can struggle to, like, get the eye in for what we're looking for, but because these people are going down every day, they are absolute experts on their sections because they've been doing it for years. It's just the same place.
This is what I sort of briefly grazed over it earlier. Not grazed, glazed. Some of the collectors down there, like, they know that area of coastline so intimately. It's like literally like the back of their hand. They know. Don't laugh. Yes, you did. Watch it back. They know every single bit. They know exactly where to find what things, exactly what everything looks like, and it does take us a while to get our eye in. Like, I really struggle going anywhere like Yaverland on the Isle of Wight or here, I can't find stuff very easily, or it takes me a couple days to start finding things. But back home, there's a locality that I go to where I found the bison skull. I find it really easy to find stuff there. Like, I'll just wander on, and in the first 10 minutes I'll have something. And it is a bit based on. But, like, it's because I know the area, and I've been there so much, and I've got my eye in, and I know exactly where to look for, what colours, what shapes. I know all of the horizons. Even if I don't know the geological names for them all, I know them all, and their textures and their colours. And it's like the people here, they have so much knowledge. It's incredible.
I was going to say, that brings me to a really good point where I love when fossil hunt, people who fossil hunt are probably the most amazing, and they're so kind, the people. Whenever I go fossil hunting, I love speaking to the collectors. You know when someone's a collector when they're not enjoying...
Some of them are kind.
Yes, I met a few people today, and they were so nice. I asked one of them, I was like, what's the stone? I told him the stone I was looking for, and he was like, so how do I know what it is? And he was like, spend about 34 years in, and you'll find it. But no, he was really nice, kind. He was giving me tips. He was giving me what to look for. I met another collector. Apparently, he's a really famous collector down here as well.
I met a guy with a parrot today. There was a man down there collecting with a parrot on his shoulder.
Very cool.
It seems to be those with animals do a lot. Like, you know, there's two ichthyosaurs that were found by the dogs.
Were they?
Not that long ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Like the dogs sniffed them out.
You got the story mixed up. It was 2 dogs and an ichthyosaur.
Oh.
It's in Somerset, the one that had his head bitten off.
That's
the
it.
dog or the ichthyosaur?
No, that was in Somerset.
The Chris Moore.
The ichthyosaur bit the dog's head.
What? There's another one.
No.
What was missing the head?
The ichthyosaur.
Okay.
Back to the history.
Paleontologists are some of the most interesting people you'll ever meet. I wouldn't say they're all lovely.
I don't know. Oh yeah, some of the stories I've heard are weird.
Some of the stories you've told me.
Yeah, some of the stories that you've experienced.
That's why they're so amazing, because you get passed down these amazing. I shouldn't say amazing. These weird stories.
Yeah.
How some rocks being thrown at you isn't amazing.
He's not a collector.
Anyway, clearly fossil hunting is still a very lively, sometimes quite interesting exercise, and is probably more popular now than ever before. So how did Mary Anning influence the world of fossil hunting and paleontology as a whole, and what is her legacy today?
Yeah, so I mean, talking about her legacy,
yes.
For a while I think it was true that she was sort of forgotten about by history, but I think nowadays, thankfully, that's kind of changed a lot. I mean, there's so much that's been written about her. I think somewhere I read she's probably like the single paleontologist who's had the most written about her.
She's an icon.
She really is, and there's so many like fictional stories about her. Ammonite, for one. Great film.
As a film, it's pretty good. As a biography.
I mean,
speculative.
Incredible cast. Kate Winslet as Mary Anning. That's like, could it get any better?
Do they have a geologist?
So that's Roderick Murchison. That's his name, Roderick. And then his wife, Charlotte Murchison.
Yes.
She's like an incredible person and an amazing geologist in her own right, like the real Charlotte Murchison was. And in that film, none of that is covered at all. Why did they just blank over it and ignore who she was? The fact that, I keep saying this to everyone, the Silurian, the Devonian, and the Permian periods, they were named by Roderick Murchison. The only reason he got into geology in the first place is because Charlotte Murchison encouraged him to do that. He was like aimless, didn't know what to do. She was like, look, geology's pretty cool. I study geology, go study geology. Ends up naming those periods. It's because of her that we have the Permian period. And that's not covered.
Also, it's a really dark movie. It's so grey.
It's very depressing.
I've not seen the movie because I want to keep my sanity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I don't like the lighting.
It looks very sad. It made me feel cold
watching it.
Yeah.
Did they have Trey at least?
No, I don't think they did because I think he died by then anyway.
I don't know.
But yeah, anyway, so yeah, what do you think of Mary Anning and her legacy?
I mean, I for one am very glad. I mean, I know that some people, or like, there is the sort of idea that she's a little bit overhyped.
She deserves it. She deserves it.
She does deserve it, to be fair. Like, as a woman of her time, she got a lot more respect and like acknowledgement than other women of her time. But it was still so understated as to like who she was and what she did. Like I think she was refused joining the Geological Society or something like that.
They didn't let women in 1900s.
So man. But I mean, I for one am so glad she's like overhyped, because having a woman as sort of the face of paleontology, like growing up I'd say she was the face of paleontology. Like I didn't know any paleontologists.
Marianne Rox does that really well.
It was Mary Anning that I knew. So it felt like a very accessible field of science for me. Like I was talking to someone about this the other day, like I was like, oh, why didn't I go into any other sciences, because I always found them fascinating, and they always sort of felt like they weren't for me, and I didn't know why. I'd never really put my finger on it before, but I guess it probably wasn't just this, but part of it was because I never saw any women in it. But the fact that she is the most famous, the most prolific, she is the paleontologist, it just, I don't know, it just...
If there was anyone from history I could meet, it would be her. That's kind of always been the case. Like, I would love to talk to her and just heard, like, her thoughts on things.
I wouldn't even say she was an inspiration to me. She was just...
Someone there. That,
She
know that other people can make it as well.
It was just knowing that I could do it, that it was possible. And it wasn't a conscious thing, it was just...
I was going to quickly...
I'd be forever grateful for.
I was going to quickly mention the Murchison. Is it Murchison, did you say?
Yeah.
The story you just said about the Murchison, that reminds me a lot of Gideon Mantell. And Mary Ann Mantell, she originally found the teeth of Iguanodon in Sussex, but then he was
very bitter towards the end of his life because his wife left him, and so he kind of tried to...
She found a lot of his finds.
Yes,
exactly.
A lot of
I
his...
think Sarcosaurus is one of hers as well.
Really?
Not be a Sarcosaurus.
It's not Sarcosaurus, it's Sassisuchus.
No, there's Sarcosaurus as well.
Oh, she also found a baryonic key called Sassisuchus. Sassisuchus. I think it's Sassisuchus now I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
But now it's indent. But she found a lot of the Sussex finds.
Yeah, and Mantell himself just kind of tried to downplay her contribution as much as possible. But that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
I
think we should do an episode on like British paleontology history, like what specific people did.
Yeah.
We have long episodes.
I mean, the whole fighting thingy and the
Bone Wars.
The guy that cut off someone's head and stole it home.
Hey, what?
It began with an O.
Othniel Marsh?
No.
Wait, Richard Owen?
Yeah. Maybe.
That's a different conversation.
Someone worked at a human anatomy place and they took home a human skull to... There's just so much to
That sounds like an
this sounds familiar. I know you're on about.
Yeah, I read it in a book on the history of mammals, but it was like 2 years ago. I can't remember who. I think it was Owen. He took home a human head to dissect.
He was very bitter.
Yeah,
he was very mean.
He literally put Gideon Mantell's deformed spine on display in the Natural History Museum after he died. I don't
this is
think
why I'm saying paleontologists are interesting.
Going back to Marianne's legacy, I would say that she's an inspiration to me because of how she just went off onto the beach and started collecting. And just like, she unlocked a part of history where I think I know you said there were other people in Lyme and Charmouth who were already discovering stuff, but if it wasn't for her, we would be a bit too like... We may have lost the Terminodontosaurus. We may have lost Dimorphodon and Plesiosaurs and Romaleosaurus. She got there at a perfect time. Yeah. Sad to think of the specimens that were lost, but she got there at a perfect time, and I think like she's an amazing person.
Yeah, I mean
the way history's taught it, and the way our modern day has taught it as well. It's perfect.
I mean, completely disregarding her social legacy, like the social changes that she made. Her scientific legacy is incredible. Like, it's the stuff she's left behind, the skills that she did that we still all use.
Even though this is just a bit of a ranty thing, but I'm so happy they finally added a statue for Mary Anning.
Oh yeah,
finally!
amazing.
Like, they should have done this years ago.
It seems strange that that hasn't been there the whole time.
Disregarding of how much it cost, the government should have been on. I'm not going to get into that, but just like they should have done it straight away because it's something like history.
I mean, there's like a couple of blue plaques. There's like the plaque by the museum saying this is where her house was. Apparently, plaque on Broad
We
Street.
haven't seen the plaque on Broad Street.
No, I don't know where it is, but apparently that's where her second fossil shop was later in life. And then there's Anning Road named after her.
Yes.
And I mean, yeah, there's stuff kind of all over town.
We need a statue of Mary Anning in the NHM.
That'd be cool.
That'd be amazing.
Replace Owen and Doc. Yeah. Pretty cool.
Also talking about her legacy, she's always going to be remembered in the sense that she also got an ichthyosaur named after her.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so we mentioned that in the museum again. Yeah, finally named Ichthyosaurus anningae after her. Definitely deserved. And then it turned out that one of the specimens that was Ichthyosaurus anningae was actually collected by Mary herself, which is really cool.
Oh,
that's amazing.
But obviously, yeah. And yeah, it is sad that not... So there was a fish named by Agassiz, however you say his name, after her during her lifetime, but I think that was about it for things named after her while she was still alive.
What? Buckland and all, they didn't...
I mean, yeah, so her relationship with, like, Buckland and Coney Bear, we haven't even... There's so much to talk about with her life. And these, like, the gentlemen geologists of the time, they were... Buckland, like, credited her a lot in the, like, as being the one who found the things he was writing about, but as there's letters that Mary actually wrote herself, kind of complaining about how it's like, yeah, she gets these acknowledgements, but how does that help her in any way? Like, she doesn't kind of get any money. Well, she sells the fossils, but she doesn't, like, it doesn't take her out of the situation. She's poverty and everything, and her social status. Whereas, you know, all the male geologists are out there, like, advancing their careers because of her finds.
She did have not saying this is not saying a side note, but she also had her fossil shop where people you said around the UK would come and go see her.
Yeah, I mean,
which is amazing.
People travelled like from all over Europe as well.
Wow.
Like, and there were even visitors from America like coming to Lyme specifically to talk to her and to go out on fossil walks with her, which I mean says something. Like, when she died, there was like a notable kind of, I don't know if it was a notable drop off, but like there weren't as many people like coming to Lyme. Like, Mary Anning was like a tourist attraction in a way. Like, people would come to Lyme to see her, to speak to her, to buy fossils from her, to go out on fossil walk. So they really lost someone special when she died. And yeah, I mean, it's great that she's now being remembered more and more.
But she was just stuck in the system of her time, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was never
famous, but she couldn't really do anything.
She couldn't get out of that social or just like that.
Well, yeah,
that part of the
social
world.
Structure and just patriarchy.
It's nice to see that we've changed from then.
Well,
to a point.
Yeah.
I just think an interesting point nowadays to bring up is nowadays we're talking a lot about commercial paleontology with the recent prices of some fossils, and it is interesting to also look at what well, I feel like we then go on to start villainizing people who sell fossils, but it's interesting, I think, to look at her and how we can maybe improve that relationship between the like academics and the people who are finding the stuff. So I think it's interesting to see where we can go and look at Mary Anning as an example of like maybe what we should or shouldn't do. Yeah. What I like about Mary Anning is the early days, the dark ages of paleontology. Like, they are fascinating. Like, to completely invent a new science is something else, especially off the basis of like, not even like recognizing that those are bones, those are fossils. Like, I mean, we laugh at scrotum humanum and stuff like that, but let's face it, like, they were inventing new things that people just couldn't even fathom, like, as a concept, and it's very fascinating, crazy stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, going back to Mary Anning, I mean, her life is incredible. Like, just the story of her life, like being struck by lightning as a baby, surviving that, and then like becoming this legendary fossil hunter, and making all these incredible contributions to the new science of paleontology, doing like experimental paleontology, and even like, so she couldn't even have access to like the scientific papers that were being written about her discoveries.
Oh my
and like
gosh.
thanks to her, I mean, she was lent them, luckily, but she would like write out by hand like the entire papers.
Oh, I remember hearing
Yeah,
about
because
this.
she couldn't take copies of them.
Really?
Yeah, and that's how she like taught herself about the science that was being done on her discoveries.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, she was even doing like thinking about geology and how things were deposited. So going back to the belemnites again, she realized that because there were like these certain beds where all the belemnites are like deposited, preserved really well. She interpreted that as being like a calm, like sedimentary environment, like
A calm deposit.
yeah. So she's like thinking geological terms, like things we're taught about in first year and stuff. So yeah, I mean, she really did change paleontology forever, I think.
She wasn't just forgotten when she died. She had a eulogy. She was actually remembered by like the geologists and paleontologists and even the people that bought from her. Like you said, who spoke at her funeral?
I don't know if they spoke at the funeral, but there was a eulogy given by Buckland or Dillabetch. I don't remember now. Yeah, someone at the Geological Society, like, they didn't read out eulogies for women. And she was... I don't know why, that's ridiculous. But yeah, they made an exception for Mary Anning when she died, and it's like, yeah, obviously, like, what? That's so weird. But
We're just not going to acknowledge the death of women.
yeah, basically. Very bizarre, but they made an exception for Mary Anning, which...
You can still go and see Mary Anning's grave in the churchyard of St. Michael the Archangel in Lyme, and so of course we had to go and visit her resting place.
Okay, so we're at the site of Mary Anning's grave, or apparently there's not actually evidence that she's definitely buried here, but this headstone was erected by the widow of her brother Joseph Anning. She's definitely buried somewhere in this churchyard. It could be here, but this is the one that marks the spot. It's a nice tradition that people kind of leave fossils and apparently dinosaur toys for her now as well. I haven't seen that before. I've seen flowers left here, which is really sweet. But keeping in that tradition is an ammonite you found earlier, Hamza.
Yes.
Do you want to leave it for her?
I don't know what happens with fossils. I think the museum take them, don't they?
I think so, yeah. I mean, someone will have to take the dinosaur models, but it's really nice that people do that.
Yeah. There's a modern horn down there as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, modern horn. Yeah, so Mary Anning died 1847 from breast cancer after living with it for 2 years. And it also mentions 3 children who died in their infancy buried here. Those would have been her nieces and nephews. They're the children of Joseph Anning and his wife, who didn't survive. Mary was actually the second sibling named Mary of her family. So Richard and Molly Anning had, I'm not sure how many children there were in total, but only Mary and Joseph actually survived to adulthood. The first Mary unfortunately died in a fire that took place in the house. Her clothes caught fire and she burnt to death about 5 months before this Mary Anning was born. And there were a lot of other children that died in their infancy, which was quite common for the time. But yeah, it's really nice that this stone, the headstone, is here to mark this. And it was recently cleaned, I think, a couple, like 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
It was very grown over with lichen and such.
Silly question. I don't know if they know this, but how did they know the stone was here? Like, do they have a catalogue? Did someone like rediscover it?
It's always been known to be here. So Joseph Anning's widow was the one who put it here.
Who erected the statue?
Yeah, because this is definitely Joseph Anning's grave, and then it's suspected Mary is also here, but she could be anywhere in the churchyard.
And me and Hamza will look this up, but she does have descendants today.
Yeah.
Of Joseph's kids.
So the Mary Anning Rocks page on Instagram, the ones who were responsible for getting the statue made, actually posted this amazing photo of, I can't remember his name now.
15th.
Or fifth times 5 great nephew.
Great nephew, yeah.
Like at the Natural History Museum Marine Reptiles Hall, standing
right next
with his
to,
daughters.
Mary Anning's plesiosaur.
Yeah, so there are still Annings around today, but yeah, descended from Joseph.
It's really cool
so-
because his last name is Anning.
Yeah.
I love that so much.
2022 also saw the long overdue creation of a statue of Mary in Lyme, which we'd just missed the unveiling of when we last visited the town.
and we were all very excited to finally get to see this wonderful monument to her life and achievements.
Oh my gosh! Famous Marianne statue.
We just missed it last time we were here.
We did! We missed it because we had to go back to uni, but here she is.
Wow. It looks amazing. Trey!
Oh, look at her dress! Is there any fossils in? Oh, there's some stuff in there. Oh, wow.
So what is at the bottom?
So you got the ichthyosaur here.
Oh, there's a plesiosaur paddle back there as well.
There's belemnites here. There's ammonites here.
There's such nice details. Yeah, the plesiosaur paddle. And then Trey, her dog. Oh, look. Trey's got ammonites in his ears.
Ammonites in his tail.
That's so cool.
That's amazing.
Oh, and it's the piglet.
Oh, of course. Wait, so where's Dimorphodon?
It might be in there. Belemnites. That's so nice. It's such a nice tribute to her finds.
So Mary Anning really did change the science of paleontology forever with her discoveries, her expert preparation skills, and her scientific interpretations of the things she was finding, even if she was never properly accepted as a paleontologist during her lifetime. It was absolutely fantastic to spend the time we did in Dorset too, walking in the footsteps of such an amazing person and even getting to find our own ichthyosaur fossils, as we showed in the previous Boneheads episode. I really hope you enjoyed watching our Dorset adventures, and we'll definitely be going on more field trips like this again soon, so be sure to look out for that. And thank you again for all the support you've been showing us recently.